This is the National Agenda, your go-to political show where we discuss all pressing national issues from the grassroots level through to national policy analysis. Today, we are taking a different angle on the show. We are going to delve deep into discussing the revocation of the LI 2462 and the LI 2501, which is the Galamsey intended, if I should say, or the Galamsey related legislative instrument that allows people to mine in our forest reserves as a country. And today, to help me in the studio to discuss the issue with regards to the revocation of the LI 2462 and that of the 2501, I have lawyer barrister Latif Johowrie, and with him is Nazir Saeed, who is a youth advocate, if I should say. Gentlemen, exactly. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's good to have you in the studio today. Today, we are going to look at a very pressing issue, like I said earlier. So by way of information, I did my bit of an analysis on the whole story. And I looked at the issue of why people are even raising eyebrows when it comes to the LI. And one of the things that I came across was the fact that people realized that the LI 2462 give a discretionary power to the president to allow people or give mining leases or licenses to people to mine in our forest reserves. And one other thing that also came up was the fact that these forest reserves form a part of our ecosystem. And so one would have expected that these places are protected. If for no other reason, we could end from there through tourism. Let me start from you, Nazir. What are your take on these issues?
Okay, thank you very much. When it comes to issues of the environment and mining, I take very key interest. Growing up in a mining area, being conceived on a mine, birthed on a mine, and grown on a mine, I take very peculiar interest in many of these issues. Personally, I've been part of the people who have strongly advocated, as an environmental sustainability professional myself, I've been part of the people who have advocated that the entire LI in its entirety, 2462, must be repealed. Because for a country that subscribes to international climate laws and regimes, just last week, our acting minister for environment was at COP20, and this should tell you that many of the activities that we are doing should be in line with the SDGs. So when we encroach our protected areas, that's technically what we call our forest reserves. We just have 266 of the gazetted ones. If we are encroaching them, then we are not taking sustainability serious. So personally, I hold a very entrenched position on the fact that mining should not be done in our forest reserves, and it's a no-go area for mining. In the meantime, and if there should be activity in there, it should be highly regulated, as a matter of fact.
All right, thank you so much. On the issue of regulation, let me come back to you, Barrister. Has it been a problem with improper structures put in place when it comes to regulating issues of mining or mining in our forest reserves, or is this a matter of procedural inefficiencies?
When it comes to the issue of mining, small-scale mining, howsoever described, for me and from my perspective, the problem has never been about the law. When you read LI 2462, even with the subsequent amendment by 2501, the entire law is fine, and you see, the problem has always been about enforcement. There are flagrant breaches, daylight breaches of the law, but then enforcement becomes a problem. When you look at the law looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, it looks so perfect. However, the enforcement, people just do not adhere to what the law says because they know that the people who have to enforce the law are equally complicit. And so the law is made, we take the law, we take the ones that give us a right to enter into forest reserve to mine, and then we throw the rest of the regulatory framework, checks, and then safety precautions to the gutters. And so we get a problem.
All right.
So for me, I think it's the enforcement.
All right, that's fair. So, lawyer, let me come back to you again. On the issue of the LI 2462, like I stated earlier, what was raising the eyebrows, which was the discretionary power. Over the past few years, we've noticed that any time that sort of power is given to any political leader, there seems to be some sort of abuse. And so don't you think that the people of this country have a say when it comes to, arguing that that part should be taken out?
Well, yes, just like 2501, and like 2501 has done, it has effectively repealed Regulation 3.2 of the LI 2462, which, so when you read Section 3 of Regulation 3 of LI 2462, now repealed, that aspect has been repealed. You'll get to know that it provides that a person shall not issue a license or permit to any person to undertake mining activity, including exploration activity in the following areas. So there were about 9 to 10 areas that the law had given prohibition from mining.
All right, so lawyer, hold on with that. For our viewers and all of us to be on the same page, I think we should quickly go to that page.
Yes, you can check around page 6.
Page 6, okay. So the prohibited areas.
Yes.
So that is Regulation 3.1,
yes,
which states that the person shall not issue a license or permits to any person to undertake mining activities, including exploration activities in the following areas. And it states clearly, a globally significant biodiversity area. What does it mean?
Well, so you see, when it comes to biodiversity, it could mean a lot. It's quite a technical word, but in various countries, there are areas that people feel like this is an essential area for not necessarily for just the country, but something that is the whole world could benefit. Maybe Nazir could.
Yeah. So as I said, this is my area of
from the background of
I'll chip in small. So in biodiversity, basically, is a combination of every resource or every area that has life. So in Ghana, for instance, by this they mean a globally significant biodiversity area, Kakum National Park, Paga Crocodile Pond. So the Kakum area or the Kakum National Park happens to fall inside a forest belt.
Okay.
So they are saying that because Kakum is in a significant biodiversity area, being the forest and being a tourist attraction, the Kakum Forest Enclave would not be used as that forest particular will not be entered for mining purposes. But the law also didn't look at the other side of it. So you think about the fact that how many biodiversity areas do we have as a country? How many tourist sites do we have that are situated inside our forest? Out of the 266, not more than 10 of them have any form of life inside these forests, but they are habitats for different forms of biodiversity, animals and what have you, that are going extinct in contemporary research that we have seen. So this gives a way for numerous of other forest reserves to be entered without they meeting this criteria. And I'm looking through the others that are
so we see the protected provenance, the institutional research plots, like you stated,
all the 266. All the 266 forest reserves that are gazetted that we have in the country, more than 200 of them do not have any of these characteristics, giving way to the fact that a significant portion of them can be entered because none of them meet this criteria. And as a matter of fact,
hold on. Are you saying that, say the Achimota Forest, for instance, does not hold this importance or these things that we're talking about?
The Achimota Forest becomes one of the little amongst the many. Even Achimota Forest currently. Achimota Forest is not a globally significant biodiversity area. It is not a protected provenance area. Institutional research plot. I do not know the form of research that happens in the Achimota Forest. A hill sanctuary is not in Achimota Forest. A high conservation value area. I do not know the kind of conservation we have in the Achimota.
So what about places like Kakum National Park that holds a lot of significance?
So those are the few ones in the country that I'm saying will fall outside this 9 things that have been listed. Cultural sites, for instance. A few of our forest reserves across the country, plantation sites. Many of the forest reserves are there. No one enters them. There are no level of plantation happening in them. So it means this is giving way That has even been abused. So you see lawyer talk about the fact that the implementation of the law, the enforcement hasn't been done, because we've seen many videos where people enter the forest and clearing down cocoa trees. The forests that have our timber and coal, they are being cleared. So the enforcement of the law in itself in the entirety is not there.
That's fine. Lawyer, let me come back to you. So you were on the issue of the taking away of the discretionary power, and you were speaking to us about this regulation. So we would appreciate it if you can carry on.
So you see, when the backlash came with the whole mining in forest reserve, a critical or topical among that conversation was these areas.
Okay.
Whether they exist or not, the law, the intent of the framers of the regulation was that if we could, in fact, cultural sites are created.
Sure.
We may not have one today, but we can create one tomorrow.
Sure.
The law just intends that in the event that we have a swamp sanctuary, in the event that we have a cultural site, these are sites that we should take that discretion and vest it in the highest authority in the country, the president. And that is why even lands and other things, minerals in the country generally are vested in the president.
Wow.
Because we believe that the president is given the highest level of fiduciary duty. Even anybody would abuse his office, not the president.
So but has that been the case? I mean, let me just take your.
So that becomes a very polarized opinion. People would always have their own opinions on it, and that is why we subject presidents to every 4-year voting, right? Some obviously, even with our research, that some will be abused. Note that the president, like he said, the president may not even know that there's an Ajimota forest. There's even a cultural site in my village, JPC. It's people that advise the president. Okay. Most things that the president do in this country are on advice.
Yeah.
So if the people fail, that is why they say that when the president will have to succeed, it is the people around him. Yeah. They will tell you that a president has issued a number of mineral licenses. The ministers and all the mineral commission will come and advise that, yes, we are enforcing the law, we are ensuring so, Mr. President, these are good to go, let us clear them before you realize. So when the backlash came, the new government felt that, okay, taking this away would mean that we are doing something. And so regulation LI 2501 came, taking away the president's discretion to even grant access to, which meant necessary that even if we have high value gold in a sanctuary, a high hill sanctuary, no one can give permission for us to enter there. Previously, the president would use discretion to get in there. But now we feel like, no, we've gotten to realize that no, it's not even about these protected areas. Okay. It is simply about entering the forest to mine. And so now there are attempts to ensure that the entire LI that give people the opportunity to enter these forest reserves is revoked completely, and then people are not even given licenses, which I think will still not solve the problem, but that may be a conversation for another time.
That's fine. All right, thank you so much. Nazir, let me come back to you. Do you think this move by the incumbent government is the way forward? I mean, having looked at the fact that people have attributed mining in our forest reserves to the issue of galamsey, because in recent times, research has shown that people are hiding behind these few licenses that are given to mine in the forest reserve to do or engage in some sort of galamsey activities because they believe they will not be seen. Do you think that this is the way forward for the incumbent government when it comes to resolving the issue of galamsey?
All right, Ofofi, to say this is enough, I would say no. Is this minimal? I would say no. It could be an intermediary approach because this is a significant intervention by the government. Since its inception, the inception of LI 2462 in November 2022, there's been calls from myself, my professors in class continuously mentioned that this is not the way to go and that there shouldn't be mining in our forest reserves. There's been calls by CSOs, what have you, civil society organizations, academia and co, to see the revocation of this act. So if today we have a government led by the His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who says that indeed is going to look forward for us to revoke this act, it is a step in the right direction. And I'm as I said, there are many things that are going to be done in conjunction to this. as you rightfully know, since independence, only 99 mining licenses had been released, has been given out since independence. So let's say December 2016, only 99. As of December 7th, there were over 2,000, specifically 2,147 mining licenses had been released within that period. It should tell you that there was a deliberate attempt to enter our forest reserves and to also make the issue of mining very deliberate
hold
in the
on.
country.
So are you agreeing or asserting to the fact that people think that the enactment of the LI 2462 in 2022 was a deliberate effort to allow people to engage in mining in the forest reserves? I mean, for their own parochial interest, it was an effort of that incumbent government.
Exactly. If you ask lawyer, there's no law that has not been drafted intentionally. It's an intentional draft to enable us enter the forest reserves and mine.
But if that's the case, don't you think it affects the state? It affects the country and its people. If we have individuals enacting laws to favor them as compared to the general public, then, I mean, are we not failing?
This is a question you have to ask them. Because if they sit in their rooms and they were able to enact laws to enable us people enter our forest reserves and mine, this is a question we should be putting to them themselves, because it doesn't make any logical reason to me as a student of environmental sustainability that you enter our forest reserves and mine where there are a lot of lands that has gold vested in them across the length and breadth of the country, which are not necessarily forest areas. So it was a very wrong move in 2022 for us to have this LI, and it's a very good step in the right direction that is being revoked.
All right. So Nazir, quickly on your same background, I want us to have a look at this. On the same background that you stated that we have had a limited number of licenses given. Now let's quickly have a look at what I have here on the issue of the numbers, what the numbers are saying when it comes to licenses given so far. So ever since the enactment in 2022, under the leadership of His Excellency, the former President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we have seen over 100 licenses issued. And that goes a long way to support your claim. We see 21 to small-scale mining. I understand even the 81 that was for prospecting are all connected to the small-scale mining. These prospecting licenses are expected to what? Allow people to just go survey and all. But is that what we see? No. We know that people are even there digging when they have prospecting licenses. Now let's have a look at this. What even baffles my mind and makes me worried is the fact that between a period of 6 days, from January 1st to all the way through to January 6th, these licenses were given. If you're an average Ghanaian, would you raise would you not raise eyebrows? Let me put it that way. Sorry.
A non-Ghanaian will even raise a lot of eyebrows. I remember during that time, the committee that was in charge of the transition raised a lot of questions. I remember Honorable Ofosukwuachi talk extensively about some of these activities that were happening behind their knowledge. And I think he raised a lot of questions against them. This should also go a long way to tell you that the systems, just as Latif was saying, you may want to attribute to the fact that the president is in the helm of affairs and steering everything, but there are people around who are also administratively doing certain things and issuing some of these things. So you can tell from your own statistics that 19 licenses being issued. It was same in 2020, where we had about 190 licenses issued within a short period. So this is not something. Obviously, it's not something that we can write home about.
All right, so Nazir,
clamp down.
Yes, hold on with that. Lawyer, let me come back to you. On the same platform, look, I know that people of the law would argue that these things are being done in the frame of the law. But if it's done in the frame of the law and it has tremendous impact on us as Ghanaians, don't you think it calls for another action to be taken?
So for me, from the legal perspective and for what I know and what I have read, especially reading provision to provision, regulation to regulation of LI, the 2462, right?
Yeah.
You would know that we are having this conversation of declare state of emergency, don't declare state of emergency, amend regulation this, revoke regulation that, simply not because there was a birth of LI 2462. No. It is simply because the provisions of the same LI has been violated, has been breached, and nothing is happening. Look, when you read the provisions of the LI, you would see that there was no, at least from my perspective, there was no deliberate attempt to destroy the forest. It is carefully designed. And for example, when you read on section 6, it talks about the fact that when somebody issues with a recognizance license, a prospecting license, the person would have to establish without the use of heavy equipment or moving equipment in the forest reserve. When you are establishing your grid lines, geological, geochemical, and you establish without the use of heavy equipment. You mark them by wooden pegs, by the gravel flagging. You cutting of shrubs and other vegetation is kept at an absolute minimum, not exceeding 1 meter in width. In cases where lower store, look, chainsawing is not undertaken in the forest reserve. You listen carefully.
Yes.
Chainsawing. Cut lines for access shall not exceed 1 meter. Rather than clear cutting and bulldozing for access, the vegetation is driven over.
Okay.
To preserve rootstock and prevent soil erosion. Trees larger than. Look, when you read all these things, the moment the license is handed over, they start from regulation 1 and they breach every single thing. So you know that the problem is not the law. But the problem is about the breaching of the law, and we are looking helpless. So, in the event where now, so people say that when the law is not there, it means that when you enter, we are now not even going to ask whether you are following the law or not, because there's no law.
There's no law.
It's even illegal for you to enter. However, if these things were being followed, even if there were going to be impact, it would have been the argument of, must we mine in the forest in the first place?
Okay.
It wouldn't have been whether with the water, because carefully, when that was done, you would notice that when you go, even you would have heard of the famous don't mine a certain number of meters close to the river body, all those things. If all those were done, would we be seeing River Ankobra, River Pra changing colors?
Certainly not.
No.
Yeah.
The law has been clear. But why are those things being done? Simply because those laws are being raped and no one is talking about the defilements. So everybody looks on and we blame that. It is not really about the regulation per se, but it is the enforcement. And I find it quite worrying that government seems to be helpless in enforcing their own law. The government, the executive arm enacted these laws and they can't enforce your own law. It's like you create a law that has become a monster for you. So we must kill the law. You give birth to a child that has become a monster. You need to kill the child to survive. So that is a situation we find ourselves. But even when we kill it, now that people have gone into the forest and they know what is in there, we still have people who find their own, because many of the people who are even, and maybe Nazir will tell you, who are even mining and destroying this vegetation, aside those who have legitimate license and mining, many of the people mining don't even have license. They just they follow the person and they also stand close by.
They also start something small.
Because X who has a license and many of them don't even have the license. So those who have the license too, they also go beyond. If they've given you 1 meter, they end up being 10 meters.
Okay.
And all that.
Okay.
So for me, I think that it is the enforcement that is the problem. But if we find that the enforcement is the problem, taking the law that makes everything illegal, that means that anyone who is found there, there's no argument as to whether were you 2 meters or 1 meter. No.
Yes. Now all of that will be taken away.
All of that is taken away.
What are you even doing there?
What are you doing there? Where they are?
Okay. I get it. All right, Lawyer, thank you so much. Nazir, back to you. So now that we have established the fact that this may not necessarily help us, curb the issue of mining in our forest reserves and extended to Galamsey, what do you think the way forward should be?
Personally, just as the president subscribed to at the stakeholder engagement he held at the presidency, I believe, as he mentioned, we've not elapsed all the various mechanisms we can use to combat the fight against illegal mining. And from where he sits, we have seen the institutionalization of Gold Board to streamline the sales and mining of gold in the country in the first place. We have seen NIMOS, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operation Secretariat. So as he has mentioned, and the revocation of the LI 2462, the Minister for Lands also mentioned on July this year that the 9 forest reserves had been reclaimed by the government. All of these are a step in the right direction that I believe. From the operations and the swoops I have seen by NIMOS and the Special Anti-Illegal Mining Operation Task Force of the IGP, I believe going forward we are going to have a very...
I thought that group was disbanded.
Yeah, that is what is succeeding the activities. The activities of NIMOS is what is succeeding.
Okay.
They had to operate before the institutionalization of NIMOS, so now they are complementing the activities of NIMOS now. I believe all of this put together a comprehensive way and manner that can, going forward, as you also rightfully said, you've seen in the past, just last month, 278 mining licenses were revoked by the Minister for Land and Natural Resources. I believe all of these sticks and thistles are activities that are being conducted by the government to streamline galamsey in the country, and I believe it will go a long way to safeguard and protect the country from galamsey.
All right, thank you so much. Lawyer, back to you. From the legal perspective, what is that one particular thing that we as a people or the executives should do that the law can support to help resolve the issue of galamsey-related activities?
It has to be the commitment or the will from the executive themselves. From many people involved with this whole galamsey mining and people who are issued license are people who have ties or close ties with government, be it current, past governments. They would, because people who have engaged in galamsey will tell you that, Charlie, there's money in it. And see, the human nature is such that when money is involved, it looks like our sense of reasoning is paused. And then we just don't think right. As long as it will fetch you the bucks, you are in it. And people get crazy monies in just a very short while. That is why, even in the old times, when galamsey burger comes to town, how they spend money. Like these people pump money like they print money. And you are scared. How do you spend? So in the instance, when we need to, if the government will need to fight and get it done from legal perspective, is to, like I said, if the LI as it stands now, the enforcement becomes a problem. The monster we created for ourselves becomes a problem. We do not want to have a state of emergency because it has its own consequences and all. It's a whole different thing altogether. Then the law itself would have to be repealed, like the minister has proposed, that let's take the law back. Then that will give us full force to be able to fight this head on. Anybody on the lines, in the rivers, or wherever is treated as an illegal, you are a trespasser, you don't have any right to be there. And then that could help in tackling the people who, under the guise of a mining license, would now be emboldened to destroy the vegetation the way they want. Now, when you don't even have it, you can't be there.
Sure.
Now, people will still do it because people will still find their way of going back to their old place because they've spent the good money and all that and they are used to it. If there is that will to fight it and be ruthless towards everyone, but this is a human society. You will be ruthless, you go there and then it's your own person. Then your hands are tied because the human in you would not want you to proceed.
But lawyer, that's not what the law says.
I take exception to that personally.
Yes, regardless of whoever you find there, the law must take its place.
The president has demonstrated that. You have seen a lot of his appointees being arraigned before court and being asked to. He has asked that a couple of them, even as national organizer, be investigated. So for me, I take exception to that. There are people who cannot stand that. We saw that in the former government, where the president stood on the podium and defended somebody who is facing trial currently. And the person had no is not doing any form of illegal mining. But today, the person couldn't stand the test of time. The person is being arraigned.
All right, so
So that was in context. Not, I wasn't referring specifically to the current government, but I'm saying
Human nature.
if not because of the human nature, we shouldn't have been here talking about, because the provisions of the elaborate provisions of the act, the regulation, LI, is something that if we enforce, we shouldn't be here. The moment somebody breach it, the license is revoked, but people breach it and we are not revoking them. Why? Isn't it human beings? It's human beings who work. And so I think that politically, past, present, future, if the issue of galamsey or the mining in protected forest reserves must be discussed, then there must be the will to enforce. The enforcement must be ruthless. That is why the police go in there. They don't care who is in there, and that will will let everyone know that yes, there is that will to fight it. So, like he said, if the president, like the way party people who are involved are not shielded,
allegedly involved.
Obviously, if you are not proven guilty, you are innocent until proven guilty. Allegedly involved.
Borrowing your words.
They come back. You get these people. An MP has gone to purportedly obstruct NIMO's work. The person is invited quickly. Whether you are granted bail or not, you are investigated. People will know that if people who are even in your political cycle are being handled this way, it means that you are willing to fight it to the core, because everyone would wish to temper, to be a bit what we call soft with his own children, his own people who fought in the trenches with him to be able to win power. So if that person is being asked to report to the police station and answer questions, it means that there's political will.
All right, lawyer, quickly, did we make a mistake with enacting this law? Because from the look of things, it looks...
Legally, he doesn't want to go against some people. But environmentally, it is not sound at all. That's what I'll say.
So there was a rationale. Government will need to always find resources to develop the country. I would say there was a mistake in they should have known that when it comes to some of these things. Look, when you read the punitive part, that is where I have a big problem with the law. The punitive parts are just peanuts. We are talking about.
I mean, let's break it down for the average Ghanaian. The punishment bit.
Oh yes, then when you go to the punishment bit of it, when people decide not to do certain things that the law asks them to do, they are just giving fines. They are going to pay a number of how do we call this? What do we call it? Penalty units. When you convert some of them, it's just some 1,000 CDs for
which is like
it's Look, the person, you see, people would commit a crime when they weigh the punishment and the benefit. If I know I'll break into a place where, let's say, I'll come and rob this television, and then all that I get is for them to slap me twice, I'll rob the television. Because I know after all, they are just going to slap me twice.
Certainly, that's very clear. Like, Nazir, your final words.
So personally, as I was saying, environmentally, this is not the way to go. Our forest reserves should never be a place of seeking for resources, mineral resources such as gold. And just as the lawyer was saying, I'll add my voice to the fact that even the Minerals and Mining Acts 708 and 900 of 2006 and 2015 had been trampled upon already. So the already existing mining in plain sight that we already knew had already been trampled upon. The enforcement wasn't there. So why then do we go about to increase the terrain for mining and enter forest reserves, where many of these forest reserves are not easily entered by a layman? Just as Naimo said, they get to some forest reserves, they don't know where to enter and where to come out from. So personally, I believe that the commitment of us to fight galamsey is in the right direction, and I trust the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to fight this to the core.
Lawyer.
Final words: get that law revoked, save the environment, and then the country will certainly survive.
All right, so thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Lawyer, it's been a great opportunity having you in the studio today.
Thank you.
It was very insightful. Nazir, it was so insightful. And so hopefully next time on another episode, we'll have you and we'll delve into other issues properly.
I'm grateful for having me.
Thank you so much. So this has been the national agenda, and you heard it from Lawyer Latif Johowrie, and Nazir Saeed, who is an advocate, we are encouraging our leaders, please revoke the bill, save our forest reserves, and possibly end galamsey. This has been the national agenda. My name is Samuel Bamfo Ofofi. Let's get interactive on all our social media handles. Please like, share, comment. We're out.